Hello, my name is Micaiah Stevens. Welcome to Hamlet Development Log number 17. We are changing this up a little bit. We wanted to focus on the in development, not promise, just because we're showcasing a lot of stuff first. So this is kind of, a lot of this is still in testing. It's kind of basically the insider of the development log really showcases that, but it's always nice to put out this caveat. I'm a big fan of these, unfortunately. Yeah, so this is kind of our announcements page. May not make sense, but we're just mostly trying to focus on as few items as possible. It's just mainly to say that I work for a company called Haven Studios, and we're developing a game called Hamlet, and we're going to show you the game demo. So it's kind of one of the things about the game demo is we get talking about a lot of things here. So hopefully, we have worked a little bit more on the save system. We haven't done a lot with the. We worked on a lot of graphics and various things like that. One of the big core things we wanted to add back was the picking up of items. So now you can pick up the axe. I didn't showcase this last video that you didn't see, but you can actually hit Z. Yay! Oh, and I actually hit W instead of. So yeah, so we now can pick up the backpack. The backpack was always in the game. It just was not able to be picked up. Right now it has logs in. In our full graphics package, we can get an empty backpack, and I don't think we can put individual logs in, but anyways, and then we also have these cool bunny slippers. Yeah, we talked about this part of the graphics pack. I need a kind of a rotation camera around the character. I think that would be cool. There's a lot of options, but anyway, so we picked up the bed pack, as we'll see next, the Zug Zug beds, and so we have these slippers. The graphics are probably not great in terms of flipping and how they work, but it should be pretty cool. Anyways, I mean, it's like stuff for a lot of games do. So so let's go to the bed. We also, well, I guess we'll talk about a little bit of this. This house is kind of a designing a house. You can see the door is sort of here, but a lot of problem with these game objects is they don't have inside texture. So, and we also don't. We're working on doorways, but anyway, so this is just meant to be that you can walk into the house. And then here's the Zug Zug bag. I should showcase this too, I guess. I didn't last time, but if you go into the house, we'll have a way to set this up, I'm sure, through different systems. But we can actually upgrade the bed to, let's say, superb, and then that should change the bed to, yeah. So there's 4 different bed styles that we have. So then we can go all the way to legendary or something. A lot of these are, so the legendary, artifact, and relic bags all go to the red. Some of the colors, we're not exactly sure. We might actually see if we can add in our own color. That would be awesome too. So anyway, so that's part of the house. You can sort of see in the overview, it's just meant to be like this is a 3x3 foundation. And then we have windows and doors. We'll have to figure out how that exactly works. The bed's kind of off-centered too, so we'll have to. A lot of that's kind of still in flux, but the main idea was to try to get this to showcase some of the things we're doing. We brought back the infamous lamppost. We scaled it kind of so it's like you can walk under it. We might want to provide light, and then some of the textures and models are not working out correctly. I think we talked a little bit about this, but last time. But here's the sign that says, "By order of the king, no one may enter the cave." So we were teasing that, hey, we're just going to enter the cave, no big deal. So we'll talk a little bit about that in our systems design that we're talking about. Anyway, so I think that's about it. Oh yeah, and here's the roof can go away as well. Some of the textures are not quite working. I believe we were changing the graphic styles, trying to get some textured views. And this is kind of the roof style. We'll have to figure out the graphics. We worked on a lot of graphics, but we couldn't find what we wanted to do. So that's, yeah, so there's the game demo. You can see here, we brought back our axe. We have our character. He can move around. This is the original house. We had that, and we're sort of trying to replace it. The problem with this house is the door doesn't open. You kind of get that same internal effect, but so we'll have to see how we have some plans for that. Anyway, so one of the next things we're probably going to do is bring back trees, and we've already started interactables with the bed. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes, depending on the where we're processing through the future. So the status report, we're still on the 0.8 or the 0.08 on the live branch and 0.10 of the beta branch. We basically are pretty sure we're just going to ship update the Steam branches to make the 10 as the 0.10 as the live branch. And then as soon as, but that, and that may not include when we get the 0.18 of the alpha branch. We're pretty much ready to go. We just gotta, get everything and ship it. We're not gonna obviously solve everything we want to in time. Get the trees chopping down, get all the gameplay back. But really, there wasn't a lot of gameplay in the first place, so it's just kind of like we need to start making progress. And I think we are, as hopefully some of this we'll talk about. And sort of how we're changing things up, and I think it's going to be, I think we're sort of solidifying what we want to accomplish, and then we realize there's some challenges with that, so we'll get that into the future here. So anyways, so yeah, we started the log 16th on the May 27th, so last month. We actually talked about, we weren't sure when we were going to get to this. We actually put a lot of dev time into graphics and a lot of other things. That I guess we could have showcased that, but it was kind of early. A lot of the graphic styles were a lot of really way early stuff. So it's like I don't want to promise any. It's even like even stuff that's like it's like ideas and stuff, and it's like that's an idea, you have to turn it into an actual working example. So anyways, we recorded this. We set this up on June 2nd yesterday, Sunday. We recorded about 40-minute video, and then just started rambling. So hopefully we're going to be a little bit more focused on the topics, and then we'll see how it goes. And then this is going to be live on June 3rd. Probably a little bit afternoon, but after noon is when we ship. But it's already at like 10:30, so probably a little late on that. Anyway, so moving forward, we talked about all the coming soon, the status, some of the Steam announcement. I should mention there is a free demo. It's quite outdated, but if people want to try this game out, they can for free, and hopefully we'll update that demo at some point. So we have a couple topics, this kind of micro and macro environments. Hopefully I got those spelled correctly. It's sort of like with a business degree. I have a 4-year business degree, bachelor of supply chain management sort of thing, from a 4-year university, and it's like I focused on business because it was something I could do, and but I really put a lot of thought into game design and the global markets and a lot of things of how to do that. Whatever I was learning, I always tried to apply it to game design. So that's kind of why maybe some of that snuck over to. These topics are kind of similar in other in the games industry, but it just makes sense in kind of what I'm thinking about in the current challenge. And then we got the system design discussion. We've been hinting at that for a while, and then still our goal is to ship. So the microenvironment. So the microenvironment, I'll see if I can try to pare this down. It's a very complex topic, and it's sort of, you look at the microenvironment, and it's sort of like this individual slice of the environment and what it's doing. And then, but that sort of compares to the macro environment, which is the entire sort of, we talked about last week, where we wanted this Hamlet game to look like, maybe not with the royalty and the military and stuff like that. Shadowversary talked about this as the Keep and Bailey, which is kind of what this is going to be. I think, yeah, this might be, the Bailey is sort of like this idea of a village that supports a keep. So they'll have a blacksmith, they'll have lumber shops, siege making, whatever they need to support the castle. So that's the like overarching view of the game. But then you get down into this like micro view of the game, and this is kind of, I thought this screenshot was perfect because it really highlights exactly the type of game we were trying to think about and develop. And we put these sort of elements together specifically, including the axe we can now pick up, and then you can see the backpack was meant to be, I'm drawing it on the screen, but you can't see it. The backpack was actually around here, but it was never showing up because of a graphical glitch. and when we re-imported all the new graphics and changed a few things, it started showing up again. So anyway, so that's one of the first micro elements, is we knew that we wanted a character, and we wanted the character to pick up items. Sometimes, maybe it's not so great to drop items on the ground, but it's sort of in RPGs. That's sort of one of the things. You can also sort of loot items off of bodies, maybe, or out of chest, or out of barrels and stuff like that. So we have a character. We have items, and then once you pick up the items, then we're supposed to be able to chop down trees. That's working. The barrel and the crate, you can't see it, but there's a crate over here. That was sort of inclusive to talking about a crafting system and sort of storage systems and stuff like that. And then we've got the house, which you can see where the bed, and then the bed rarity as well. So it's like, and then the axe also has rarity. We weren't sure about the crates and stuff, but inventory would have rarity as well. And then trees are just trees. So that's sort of the microenvironment, just like all the elements of this gameplay in this little slice of the game. And part of this is like to make it solid and clean, and other sort of game development catchphrases to make this the most cleanest, very polished. Like they talk about a lot of polish. Like this pretty much was good to go, but it didn't have a lot of polish. So now it's like I'm thinking, one of the things I really should focus on is this as a massive like idea of just making this microenvironment really solid and clean. Like one thing people were talking about a lot is the camera clipping through houses. Now, where the houses were part of this larger topic, we do realize that we have buildings, and the camera will click through trees and various other objects. So that's one polish element we can add to this scene. That would make this a much better, cleaner environment that would be a lot more fun. And that's sort of like taking, the character and having, like the particles on the doors were another great example of, we had this energy system, and then when you ran out, the energy system was trying to tell you, hey, you can go here to restore your energy. And various, and then helps and tooltips and stuff like that, just to make this a much more polished and fun looking. So that's sort of the micro, and that doesn't include, for instance, the 20 by 20 tiles. That sort of fits into this larger world, but we know that we have nodes which each of these things are, and this sort of test node sort of signifies that the gray is like it's like a something's there basically. It used to come up with the axe as well, but the axe is sort of like, I think part of this is signifying that you can't walk there, where the axe you can walk, and then the black signifies the character. So anyway, so we do know that we need nodes, but they're not, we're trying to like, are they part of an island? Are they part of this bigger world? And that's sort of like, it's not part of the discussion. We just need to know, hey, these nodes, and they have interactable data, item data, and and then the item data is sort of like how many items can you have in this square and stuff like that. Right now we're kind of thinking of one item per square, and then also adding in the house interactions and just clean it up and make it polished and really improving the core gameplay loop. This is one huge core gameplay loop of collecting items, collecting resources, upgrading those items, and then collecting more resources, and sort of improving your economic flow of the character through the upgrade system. So that's kind of the core gameplay loop there. It's common for a lot of games. We just need to sort of solidify this and then add in all the other systems, which we sort of was becoming really complicated because there's a lot of systems that were kind of the character was this massive character. Anyway, so that's talking about more of that system design. So then we get into the macro environment. The macro environment is kind of talking about these ideas. The kingdom environment we talked about, which is kind of like this is kind of Hamlet almost. This whole screen is Hamlet 2.0, we're calling it, but Hamlet 1.0 is this idea of building a hamlet, a small village, which includes a well. This seems kind of central. We actually had this sort of core idea of there is a central well, and then it had these house chunks around it, and so that includes sort of like a lot of this is also includes roads, houses, their uses, various characters and what they're doing in this world as well. Um, there's a church. We may not include church, but they are pretty prominent in the game. We will include probably blacksmiths. I'm not sure. We'll include houses, blacksmith, lumber, just whatever these buildings may turn out to be. That will include them, and they're also a big, huge focus of this is going to be this kind of big building that's going to be a tavern, or the town hall, or it's going to be the centralized location for socializing and sort of laws, and a lot of things are kind of come out of that, and that's sort of the one of the big problems we talked about in the world is that where does this world sit? This is sort of a mesh sort of terrain generation, but it's like it kind of becomes like this. It's this scene. I think this is actually the Zug Zug building scene we might pick up at some point, and if it includes this. But the problem with this is we didn't want this terrain to be very. It just feels very. It looks kind of. It kind of looks bad in my eyes, but it's like that's kind of what games are expecting. But then also that we have this problem of the roguelike, how do you get this character, like an open world RPG, sort of free flowing character can just run around, make these curves, do all sorts of things. And then two, the terrain also, has to have these very specific flat areas. And this, maybe this is a kind of a hill that they tear down, but how do you get that elements into the game? But that's the macro world is thinking about the world, but it's more of this idea of, how does this house with the character and these items fit into this larger world? And once we get that slice of the world put together here, once we get this slice of the world put together here, we replicate that 10 times, and now we have this, and then we just add in, this is a house, this is a blacksmith, this is a lumberyard. This is a mill for flour. Here's the tavern. Here's church. Here's sort of things. And a lot of that too is sort of, so once that all fits, got these 10 sort of, not 10 or just some random number of buildings, and they fit into this kind of world that you build up around you, either static or procedural is probably where we're going to really try to go with. But then you get this sort of military protection around you, where you have watchtowers and guards and various things like that, which are also part of this secondary system. So it's like you have this building, character, item, interactable system, and then you have, so those four systems are kind of what we're talking about here, and then we add in, the town system, the guard system, the military system, the rank system, all these other systems, the social food and health, and all these other experience, all these other systems will play into that, including laws. I don't think I didn't have a screen for this. So anyway, I think let me pick out laws for one quick second, because we're talking about a lot of influences from games, and one of the games we didn't realize would be, we put off buying this game for a very long time, and it just became like this really breakout, like awesome game. We didn't realize how fun was going to be. And I'm trying to. Anyway, but part of the one of the things about this game, this is your house right here. Here's that sort of the same sort of experience of the well. We have the crates and the barrels. You can create bees. There's hardwood here. And they have you can get a stone axe that or I don't know what they call it in this game, but you chop down normal trees, collect wood, and you eventually build up to a steel or iron or whatever, and then you get this axe that can cut down these hardwood trees and clear these stumps, and they give you a couple pieces of hardwood. So it's and that's kind of it. You got wood, stone, hardwood, iron, and then a lot of ton of resources like that. We are talking about gardening and farming and sort of because that's a big part of medieval society, of adding in wheat and stuff like that. One big difference here is here's their house. This is kind of a really cool idea of the wood, but there's no actual, I think there's a resource system, but it's like it's not really that. You don't have to sort of collect a bunch of wood and this actually we've been sort of debating about that, but then it's like, is that really kind of too much for the character? But the other thing too is like this is the house, and then they do this internal view of the house, which a lot of 2D games do. We thought about, this could be a separate scene in our game as well, where it's like we have this 3D internal view of the house. We don't like that per se, because this is sort of like the house right here is this like 4x4 house, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5x5 house, right, in our game. In this example, but then you come in here, now it's a 20 by 20, and you can actually add this house doesn't. There's an extension, I think, right here that it gets added to some of these houses. There's different house types in this game now with multiplayer. But then, anyways, you can also add this extension, which includes the bedroom, and you can actually interact. You can get in here and get to sleep before your energy runs out. But we have various, we're thinking about systems like that, but then a lot of this is talking about the atom bloat. There's no, there isn't a heating system for fire. A lot of these are just decorations, which is, it's nice to have decorations, especially if you can place them. But a lot of this is like kitchen stuff, and maybe we would have these sort of stations that you can build, like a cooking fire, or sort of like graveyard keeper style more. Than this, but you would have a cooking pot and a oven where you can bake bread and various things like that. So, So and then there's a town element, and there's a lot more. Here's with the barrels. We talked about barrels with wine and stuff like that, or beer, but it's sort of it's kind of a similar vein, but we're kind of trying to think of. And then we also have this dungeon example of a character. And this is kind of more of that RPG roguelike where you have a character. We're kind of thinking about, we have a character on a square, and then you swing a sword. Have this sword swing that does this sort of same swipe method. And then if it hits the character, we'll have to, I think it's probably going to be the first iteration of our combat system, but that's pretty, and then we're also going to include slimes, because we have this great slime bat ghost pack. We're trying to be really careful on our characters, but we'll have to see what sort of things we can get away with. And so this game's very cool. It's also it's developed by one person. It's all in 2D, and it's sort of I think it's a great example where it starts out pretty good, but then it's sort of the things you can do don't ramp up. And the town's sort of pre-built as well. A lot of this town. Where's the town shot here? A lot of this well, here's like the main town hall as well. You can also get married in this game as well, so I'm not sure. I think you can get married to Abigail, but there's a lot of marriage. So yeah, so here's us. I think this might be someone else's. There's other people's homes in the game. I like the fact that it's the town, it feels alive, because it has, here's, I think this is actually still part of your house. I think this is like, this is the slime dungeon. Anyways, you can place these buildings kind of where you want. There's also a train and a train station in various places. And then you can go to various, you can go to various, snowy stuff. You can pick up a horse as well. It's pretty cool. But yeah, so the town, here's a great example of a town slot. So you have, this might be the home of someone. I don't remember. I think it's the home or the explorers or whatever. But there's homes for people, and then this is sort of the blacksmith of the person, and then you can have these mine carts to fast travel. So this game has a lot of really cool elements that I like, and that's probably why this game was kind of a big breakout success. So it feels a lot more interactive, because the blacksmith doesn't really, maybe their second floor is their home or something like that, and that's probably kind of what we'll do in our game as well. But the blacksmith is actually only there from 9 to 5, and then depending on so their schedule is really cool, and it's all very static in the game, and that's sort of one of the things we want to do, is we want to build the static system, but then make it very dynamic later. So yeah, anyway, so that's a pretty good discussion, I think. That's probably why this video gets really long, but anyway, so the next thing we kind of want to talk about is this, the system designs discussion. We were talking a little bit about this. It's probably one of the things that get really, well, I guess it's okay to talk about this, I guess, a little bit, because um, we originally we had this character in the game that had everything in the character. So you have the character stats, their health, their energy, everything they have is just this one big huge character, player, whatever we wanted to call it, file, and it just was becoming this massive list of, you know, I think we showcased that a few times. Anyway, so to split this apart, we've come up with this person SO we've talked about before, and this just includes their full name, which is their first name and their last name with a space, and then various things like that. They also include their gender, I believe. We talked a little bit about that, and then they have these stats and bools now for their data. But part of the thing too is like when you build this person, you know that's where you start out. Maybe okay, I have a first name, last name, gender, and then you have all the stats, and it's like you can get that file can go forever, and then it doesn't interact very well with the systems as well but now if you have this simple identifier, this can also be a public string, person name as well, which is their full name. So it's like person.full name is kind of where it fits. We don't do that, but we could do that in such a way that we could use identifiers. Anyway, so this just identifies that this is a person component. We really like this. This is kind of like an entity component system, but it sort of links back to that the owner of the component is this person here, and then we have this file name that sort of registers the person file name, which is just their full name into a file name, which is like replaces space and makes it sort of and then anyways we have this component type, which is this person component, and then we initialize this, and then part of that too is like we're talking about this comes into that cave. I guess we're going to go to the game ruler. The game ruler. Yeah, so part of that is we're talking about this cave idea, right? Where it's like we have this king start cave enter, which is this law. And then right here it says, by order of the king, no one may enter this cave. Well, once you sort of, when you're looking at that sign, the sign sort of, when this game starts, the sign registers this rule, and then it comes back that says, okay, here's the law code, which has come up with this idea, and then it says the law severity. And then we go to look at the law severity, and it just says this is kind of that, where this is the law system we're trying to allude up to, is that we have a character, he walks through a barrier, an invisible barrier to him, but in the game we have a collider, and the character says, oh, I've broken the law now, and then it tells the systems, hey, I've done this thing, and it's sort of like I think you under here you can see we have the signpost, and then sight is the ability for them to see the character. Some laws you can break. You don't break the law if no one can see you. Then there's also the lawful geo is the sort of the person component, and then the game ruler is sort of the ruler, or the sort of this idea of this. It keeps track of all the rules and updates the character. I think the character, they have the law codes right here, the local rules. Those are they keep track of their own awareness of the local rules. And then we have this game rule geo, which is just the collider element here. A lot of this is built on the navmesh agent, but we don't need that. We use various other things, mostly just the break. Anyways, and then this lawful system, and it just basically comes down to, this is the data element of that law system. We have a sort of a morality, or a lawful, we're just calling it lawful, sort of like, sort of how much are you, if you break the law, it goes negative, so it's like negative 100 to plus 100 is sort of the idea right now, and then it just sort of says, this is kind of how you change, you just pass in there, again, through their stringified identifier. And then this is the lawful system, and then and that's just passing in the lawful data element. Okay, so part of the law as well is there's the none includes the fact that we always include these in our enums. That's why we like this, because it fits on a person component. It has a data element that passes it to a centralized system that controls that. and then it works off these enums, which are really great. So this kind of says there's no laws being broken. This is kind of the default arrangements as well. Common laws are sort of laws that we feel like, I think common and severe are laws that you can break, such as entering the cave. You enter the cave, it's not a brutal law because, it's not that bad. But the thing about the common and severe, and we might split this off a little bit more, common is sort of this idea that when you break the law, we don't, like if you enter and leave the cave 20 times, we don't want you to go all of a sudden be like evil, because that would be too easy to sort of just go evil in the game. So you can only break the law, once every day or something like that. So you can sort of, we could see some systems, I guess another, you get into those dangerous loops of, every day my character has to enter the cave and slap a guard and, do these set things to try to get there. But we'll also have severe and brutal laws. Severe and brutal laws are like stealing is also an example we were using last time. Stealing could be a severe law, that every time you steal an item and you get caught, it's like that's like another tick of theft. So it's like it's much more, and then brutal is kind of like the idea is murder, where you can, and this is like murder not from we're not sure exactly how this is working, but we're kind of thinking of just in general terms. Like an assassination is where you sort of murder someone, but you don't, and no one knows about it until they investigate and figure it out, right? Like a murder is sort of like when you actually go up and kill a townsfolk. And we're not sure exactly if it will get that far in our game. We're just sort of thinking about this idea of this system. Because we like the idea of, and then too, it's like if you start doing that in the town, the guards will hopefully stop you from doing these things quickly, and then sort of, and it's not going to be like those games where it's like, I'm just going to kill 20 guards. No, the guards are going to be extremely powerful, and it's like you got to be, dodging them, or maybe you can get away with one, but by the time you get 2 or 3 on you, it's pretty much you're down. Plus 2, they've got, plus the town defenses of archers on the walls. You've got, ballistas, and, it's just like, knights and many other things that are just going to be like, you should be very careful. Anyway, so that's sort of like this idea, and this is sort of this full inclusion of this law system, is just, this is the main component that sits on the person, and then these are the things that this is the game really that runs the this is where it like defines what the laws are, and then this is sort of this idea of where it sort of breaks the law, and you can sort of see that in here. I think it's kind of an early system look. We'll have to see. There's could be a lot of things that would say, is this going to work out like we think it is? I don't think I can do that because the cave is a separate object. Oh, it's right here. So anyways, you can see like here, so this is the game role geo, and it just has this this streamified data element that just says Keen Start Cave Enter. The other thing too about this Keen Start Cave Enter is that sort of a spoiler for the game, that when you start the game, there might be a dungeon or a chest or some sort of prisoner in this cave system, whatever the case may be, and you can enter that cave early if you want to sort of sneak past the Keen a little bit, and do something early in the game. But you could also go and talk to the Keen, and the Keen says, "Hey, I need your help with this prisoner. Let's just focus on the prisoner example. I need some help with this prisoner." So he gives you permission to go into the cave. So now that law doesn't apply to you anymore. That's kind of one of those things we want to start adding, these really dynamic laws. And then too, we also look at these severity as well. That there's this this one's right here. A lot of this is sort of testing that when we pass in no one may enter the cave, we think like by order the Keen is one message element, but then says no one may enter the cave. So we're kind of matching both these elements. But then there's There's this one's also there's a cave up there. Many have spoken of the horror, so it sort of gives you -1 there, and then and adventures into the cave, but adventures don't come back. That's -2, and then the original. So it's like you got the original, and then you got these two other elements that sort of, as you learn more about the story, the laws become more severe. So it's like you gotta, it's like we might have some sort of law book, some sort of depending on the type, as these systems get more and more built up, they might have more and more, like we'll have a law book that you can actually, it will keep track of your laws, kind of like a journal, and sort of things like that. But a lot of this may just be depending on, and that's sort of dependent on the RPGs. I think there's two sides of that coin. Some people like to have these really, um, non-invasive RPGs where it's like you have to pretty much understand yourself how the game goes, and it's like the more you can sort of understand and read, and it's like it's more of the character instead of actually looking up, in some Wikipedia article or some sort of. But I love Wikipedia articles as well, so it's like it's nice to have, and then too it's nice to have this idea. That's the idea of, and these might be game settings as well, of the ability to turn off, turn on or off the law, enter cave, -1, exit cave -1 or whatever. It's like we might be able to turn off those or turn them on if you want to see them. And then same with this journal, so we might say, well, I don't want to, and then part of this journal too is maybe just, it's up to you if you want to go look at that and figure out why. Look at the law and see how it's done. But anyway, so yeah, so that's, and then the idea as well is the king can sort of, you can turn on and off these laws. So that's kind of an example of one system we're working on, and you can see that the castle system, there's crafting system, family system, there's items. Items are sort of just in general, how you pick up the item. Which is not included here, but anyway, so the item geo is where the item sits in the world, and you can collide with the item and picks it up and sends it to your character, which I believe we actually have an inventory system now. Yeah, we have this new inventory system as well, which you can, well, anyway, somewhere, is part of the craft world? There's a inventory anywhere. Anyways, I was going to showcase that, but maybe it's under the character. I'm just curious where it is. It's here somewhere. A lot of this is trying to separate out all this logic. Oh, it might be in here. Yeah. But here's another example of just another experience system that sort of has the person component, and then it has these sort of this is kind of the game ruler in this system. These are just sort of the what backstabs are worth 2 experience, harvest is worth 1 experience basically, and then you have the data elements. And then based on those data amounts change, it's like your current level is 0 to 100 or whatever, your experience, and then the required experience, and then your unspent levels. This is kind of the idea of skill points, basically. We're not sure how this is going to work, but we thought, oh, hey, once you got level 1, you get 1 skill point. Once you get level 2, you get 2 skill. It's like unspent levels is kind of, it was just a really simple way to do that and sort of have that general idea. And then we have the total experience of 10 million experience to hit level 100 or whatever, and that's all based on this first component. This is kind of freshly added. So first component also is a MonoBehaviour, so you can look at the character as well, which this kind of it's been called the castle runner, oddly enough. Yeah, so they'll have the person game component, and then they'll have the castle runner, the camera world rig rotates the camera, inventory experience, laws, equipment, and then here's that. Let's just pull up equipment. So it's like, oh yeah, I think there's a bug with that. I mean, it's actually there. It's just it's not registering. That's the old inventory. Anyway, so you can see the same thing, which is obviously a mistake here because we haven't come through and fixed this, but we no longer need the file name. And well, here, let me put that back in because I have to do some other stuff. So this might just this it's kind of how we used to do it, but now we have this file name. That's kind of one of the things we like, these inheritance models, because then we can have this base component type, which now says the file name is that the person file name, which is kind of what we want, plus the base component type. And you can actually see that through a save system here. You come down here, and now we've got this Micaiah shield model. or McCabe and Shield main, and he has inventory, the person component. And a lot of this is not correct, but here's the slot that we're in, and then this is the interactable, which is the bed, I think, at this point. Yeah, so here's the bed, and it just kind of gives you just all the ideas of what the bed is doing. So it's just really cool. A lot of these are JSONs and script text objects, and it gives a lot of different ideas what you can do. And this is all part of the interactable scriptable object, which sits somewhere in here. Anyways, and then so that's and then here's the bed geo, and then it tells you the bed is at -304. -304, and it's awesome. I think there's a positional data down here. So yeah, and then there's harvest and a lot of extra stuff in here, but it's basically we need to start maybe splitting this out a little bit better. As part of one of the problems with inheritance is now you get this harvest. Plus, we also have this energy we need to work on as well. Like energy needed and energy max is sort of the idea of the trees take 10 energy to harvest or something like that, and stuff like that. So. Or some concept like that, and then there's cooldowns and all sorts of things. So beds are not, but we do got the description set up and cool stuff like that. So yeah, I was mentioning they're JSON and text files. That's just for us right now. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I think I hit Control D. Anyway, so there are a lot of text files and JSON files, or they're sort of the same thing, but it's I think these are XML. I think they're just called JSON. Yeah, I think these are just JSON. This is Jason's spitting out the, with the pretty print, which is awesome because we can sort of go through and it's not human readable, but it's like I can understand it. So, but then we might encode that into a binary format or later. But right now it's just really nice to see all that, and it's a really easy conversion. So it works out great. So anyways, that's a good discussion of where Hamlet's going right now. We talked a lot about where things are going. We're still kind of working on that point 18 as our ship goal. Hopefully for Hamlet Development Log 18 it'll be a ship. Yeah, I don't know. I just need to ship. It's probably a day or so worth of work there to catch up to the Steam and get everything, all the file names and all the. I have to also figure out a lot of things there, so I probably should get started on that. Anyway, so we talked about the microenvironments. This is the slice of the game world. We're gonna. I know one thing we talked about last time that we didn't hear was the fact that I know we're talking about a lot of direction of where we're trying to go with this game, but I think this microenvironment is sort of a good way to frame one of the goals is that we should have is this really solid, clean gameplay that we can build up on this entire slice of the game and make it perfect, make it as good as we can get, and then improve it over time. So that will then expand out into the rest of the world, as that you got this really fun, clean environment to work with that has everything you would expect. We started building, and that's sort of like we built that, and then we added the energy system. We talked about with the particles, and we definitely need to add more systems like that. So we were sort of thinking about it in terms of that, but now it's just kind of a really great way to think about this and focus about this, and maybe we'll keep these going forward, talking about the different, where the micro world is fitting, and then too, we also talked about the macro world, like where the land around us is probably not what we are thinking about the world as well as one system, but that's sort of this idea of all these systems need to start talking to each other. Like the individual laws is great, but if you don't have in the guards and the keying and all these other systems play with that, then it sort of becomes this micro thing that doesn't really do anything except change a stat, and it's like, ooh, I'm negative 10,000. Who cares? Yeah, no citizens are running from me or anything like that. So it's like we have to take these systems and build them into this larger, feed into this larger macro system, which hopefully will include this Hamlet town. This might be static at first, and we might, there's a couple different ideas we have here. A couple cool games showcase some really great examples of, building a starter town from one building and then building into this massive town. But we might do that first and then as a static system, but then we want to get it really dynamic. Anyway, so that's this is Design Hamlet Development Log number 18. My name is Micaiah Stevens, or 17. Sorry, I keep doing that. Hamlet Development Log 17, right there on the screen. So thanks very much. Hopefully everything's going great. we will definitely want to ship as soon as we can. I know it's nothing personal to. It's not. It just feels like I'm so far behind, but it's like my own personal goals and ideas to do this. There's not. I know a lot of people, if they were aware of this game, they probably would want to say, hey, why aren't you shipping? But it's sort of we're building a lot of things, and we're trying to get down to how we want things to look, and I think it's finally starting to shape together that we've and that's sort of we have multiple systems. I guess I didn't talk about a couple of the problems we can foresee with those systems, such as with components. If we have 5 characters, we can have 50 components on them, but if we have 50 characters, we can't have 50 components on them, because that would be 2,500 components. So it's like it goes 250 or something insane. It starts ratcheting up. The more characters you add, the more components you have. So it's like I don't think that's sustainable. But for right now, it works out great, and then we can sort of streamline these and think about them, and and various other, instead of MonoBehaviours, we could have a list of class objects that sit on the main character as well, that we sort of have in that person geo. Anyway, so I'm getting distracted again. So thanks very much. See everybody next time. We'll continue to trudge away. There'll be a couple of game designs out. I don't remember if it's on dungeons or items. I think it's on items or so we have quite a few of them coming out. We have one on dungeons, I think, pretty soon, which is going to be talking about the sort of where the dungeon sits, and then we have items, and then family, and I think we have another one planned, castles, or castles, and then we also have another one we're working on. So those have been really awesome, and really putting together our overall RPG design and where we're trying to go with this in the background. So thanks very much. You take care.